Hello, Favor, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Okay, yes, I can. Let me just,
Olivia, mute everybody.
yeah, I'm going to mute everybody. How do I do that? How do I do that? Okay.
Go to the settings. There'll be a place that will tell you mute people on entry.
Participants. Oh, shit. It's recording, so shut up. I will mute everybody. Security. Okay, I've muted everyone. Okay. My name is Olivia Mbonu. I am an LLM student at Tel Aviv University, and I am presenting this webinar in conjunction with the Irwin Cotler Fellowship. It's called the Irwin Cotler Institute for Human Rights, Democracy, and Speech Governance. And we're just like a fellowship that tries to promote the cause of dialogue. We are very interested in having, tough conversations and conversations that promote the cause of justice and the cause of human rights and democracy in the society. So today, I'm going to be speaking on something I think is very interesting. And I mentioned that I am a student of Tel Aviv University, and that's important because my topic will be discussing online trends in anti-Semitism and how to curb, the growth of hate speech on social media. And I think like a lot of people say, oh, why anti-Semitism? First of all, I'm studying in the largest Jewish university in the world. And I think it's important to talk about anti-Semitism because while anti-Semitism is very related to the Jews and, it's a phenomenon that the Jews are presently battling with, I feel like in every society, I know that in every society, as we'll discuss later, we'll see that this is a problem. Hate, radicalization, polarization is a problem that every society is, is facing in one way or the other. And so someone said like a good speaker can pass his message in 15 minutes. So I'm going to make my, this webinar as short as possible, as long. So if in the course of this webinar you have any question, please use the, the chat box. I'll be more than happy to answer all of your questions. So I'm going to be talking on the online trends in anti-Semitism, and I'm going to talk about how to curb the spread of hate speech on social media. And I'm going to start this with a brief introduction about what is anti-Semitism, what is hate speech. I'm going to talk about the dangers of hate speech. I'm going to talk about the impact of hate speech on targeted individuals. And finally, I'm going to talk about how to curb the spread of hate speech on social media. And, I'm going to summarize and conclude. Now, I feel in our generation, the internet is what shapes our reality. It's not like our parents' generation where, they had to go to the post office or they had to wait for 7 o'clock news or they had to wait for 10 o'clock news before they, know what's going on in the society. In today's society, our social interaction is shaped by what we read on the internet, what a random person posts. And, we are in a world where a person who has never met you before, a person who doesn't know anything about your background, a person who literally has no idea where you're coming from, can just write a whole narrative about you, and that can cause damage, not just to you, but to your family, to your economic status, to your immigration plans, to anything you have planned. And it's very important that, we learn how to curb it before it becomes worse. As I said earlier, so by engaging in dialogue, we can promote effective strategy and promote responsible online behavior. Because at the end of this seminar, I hope everybody can, take like the takeaway will be like, we all have to be responsible internet users and we all have to be responsible social media users. So let's talk about anti-Semitism first of all. Anti-Semitism is a certain perception of the Jews, which may be expressed as hatred or hostility towards the Jews. And that's according to the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance. And this is important because so many tribes, so many races, so many cultures has experienced some form of hate speech, some form of hate targeted at them. But if we remember the Holocaust and the damaging effect of the World War II, where over 6 million Jews were killed, it's very important to learn, from history what happened so that we don't repeat what happened, so that we don't repeat it in our present time. So we can prevent what happened from happening again, basically. And why is this conversation important? Before me, we have 3 slides, and these slides just show, before me, we have 3 charts, and this chart just shows the extent of hate speech and anti-Semitism that is going on in the world. For example, I felt it was very surprising while researching that during the first quarter of 2023 alone, that's just January, February, and March, Facebook has removed 10.7 million pieces of hate speech content. And in 2022, during the fourth quarter of 2022, that's the last 3 months of 2022, Facebook alone removed 11 million hate speech content. And between April and June of 2021, that was when online speech was at an all-time high, and Facebook removed 31 million pieces of hate speech. That's to show how much hate is in the society, and this is just Facebook alone. This is not data from Instagram. This is not data from Snapchat. This is not data from Twitter, especially where people are just free to post whatever it is they like. This is just Facebook. And this is just data from 3 months, Q1 2023, Q2, Q4 2022, and Q2 of 2021. Also, the first chart shows the number of reported anti-Semitic incidents in the US alone. So from 751 reported anti-Semitic incidents, that's hate crime against the Jewish people, whether they are ultra-Orthodox Jews or whether they are liberal Jews, as far as they identify as Jewish, it increased from 751 in 2013 to 3,697 in 2022. We are yet to get the 2023 data. So this is just showing that there's a rise in hate, there's a rise in polarization, there's a rise in bias and discrimination, and we have to, start asking ourselves very important question about how to curb anti-Semitism and how to curb hate speech. So we're going to move to just like practical examples. And I don't want to say one of the most popular, anti-Semite right now, but Kanye West has been a little controversial. He's a very controversial figure. But let's just read some of the tweets. And this has not just got to do with only Jewish people, but we're going to bring it down to Nigeria. We're going to bring it down to religious hate speech. We're going to bring it to, hate speech. We remember Kanye West's tweet from October 2022 that says, "I'm a bit sleepy tonight, but when I wake up, I will go DEFCON 3 on the Jewish people." The funny thing is, I can't be anti-Semitic because Black people are the actual Jews. You guys have toyed with me and have tried to blackball anyone who opposes your agenda. And then, what's funny is that Kanye West has 31 million. Kanye West has 31 million active followers on Twitter, and there are only about 10 to 15 million Jews. Oh, okay. Oh, so the slideshow hasn't been showing. Let me start the slideshow. Okay, I hope you can see it now because I'm screen sharing.
Hello.
Okay, please. Let me just try to mute everyone. Can we please mute ourselves? I'm trying to mute everyone. Thank you. So back to what I was saying, Kanye West said, I'm a little bit sleepy tonight, but when I wake up, I will go dead confidently on the Jewish people. The funny thing is I can't actually be anti-Semitic because I'm Black, and Black people are the actual Jews. You guys have toyed with me and have tried to blackball anyone who opposes your agenda. Please, can we mute ourselves? Can we mute ourselves? I'm trying to mute everyone because there's noise coming in. Okay. So, and then there's this also Google it, the Jews control America. And then bringing it down to Nigeria, there's this tweet that says, let us kill all the Igbos. Let us flush them out of the land. I hate this passion. They are violent. They are the worst. They hate us. Let us hate them without holding nothing back. And then there's also this tweet that says, we need to exterminate the rats, the Christians, they are disgusting. This tweet was actually targeted towards Christian, but it was, blood because by the BBC. We need to exterminate the rats. The Christians are disgusting. Christians are viruses. They are making this country sick. Christians should be punished, and we are not doing enough to get rid of those filthy animals. We do not want more Christians in this country. Enough is enough with this maggot. And there's also this hate tweet at the Muslims that says 95% of Arab women has never had orgasm with the every mother has produced as an act of sex and not love. And then if we see this picture, there's this picture of Rothschild. I don't know why this is not muting. I have no idea why this is going on. And if we see this picture of Rothschild, there's this picture of Rothschild, which is a very popular Jewish, millionaire, a Jewish American. And there's this picture of Rothschild as a really big pig, feeding the CIA, feeding Boko Haram, surprising, feeding Al Qaeda, feeding ISIS, and funding the Jewish people. All these things, they are just hate speech targeted at different individuals in the society. But before we continue speaking about hate speech, we must also talk about stereotypes, theories, conspiracy theories, and misinformation. We all know what stereotypes are, just an assumption or oversimplified beliefs about a particular group of people. For example, Yoruba men will break your heart. That's stereotype, and that's fine. That's stereotype, and that's fine. Or all the Jews are businessmen, or I'm trying to think about a particular, a popular stereotype about Igbo people. Igbo people love money. It's just an oversimplified belief. For you to have that kind of belief is not necessarily hate speech. And then there's conspiracy theories. And conspiracy theories are explanations of beliefs that attribute the cause or event of a significant occurrence or to a secret group. Example of conspiracy theory, the moon landing was fake. There's also this conspiracy theory that the Holocaust never happened. I've read that a lot and I've seen that a lot. There are some people, they are called Holocaust deniers. They believe that the Holocaust never happened, but it was a plot by the British to give, the Jewish people the land. Then, there are lots and lots of conspiracy theories. I can't even begin to think about them right now. And there's also misinformation. Misinformation refers to false or inaccurate information that is usually spread unintentionally. I remember during COVID, I heard a woman selling in the market say, COVID is a rich man's disease and she's poor, so she can't have COVID. So there's no reason for her to wear face masks or to wash her hands because everybody that has COVID in Nigeria is rich, but since she's poor, she's safe. That's misinformation. That's not true. So these are all the kind of things we see spreading on social media. And sometimes when you open like pages of conspiracy theories, it's just a it's just a black hole you sink into. Nothing ever changes. You just keep reading and reading. You read the earth is flat, you read everything. And now there is targeted harassment and hate speech, which is the most important part of this conversation. Now, targeted harassment and hate speech refers to harmful behavior that is directed at individuals based on their group, their characteristics, their race, their ethnicity, their religion, their sexual orientation, whatever. I remember during the pandemic, there was a targeted harassment at the Asian people because Donald Trump called COVID the Chinese disease. And then everybody was just so mean to all the Asian people. They didn't care whether they were from China, whether they were from Korea, whether they were from Taiwan. It didn't care. As far as you looked Asian, you were a victim of targeted harassment. And a lot of people actually lost their lives, lost their jobs, lost a lot of things that, that was important to them. Hate speech is any form of communication, whether verbal or whether verbal, written, or symbolic, that project hostility, hatred, and violence towards a certain group of people. And this can occur online. It can occur through social media forums. It can occur through comment section or even private messaging. And it's very important that we recognize what hate speech is. It's not hate speech to say, I don't want to marry from a particular tribe, but it's hate speech when you tweet that we should use the blood of that particular tribe to wash, to cleanse the land. Let's use the blood of the Christians to cleanse the land. Let's use the blood of the Muslims to appease the gods, or let's use the blood of the white people, to make peace with our neighbors. So these are very important. This is like a very important distinction we must have. And hate speech does not necessarily mean you can't criticize a government. It's not hate speech if you criticize the government. It's not hate speech if you draw, you draw the fault of a particular people out to them. It's only hate speech when, you're trying to push violence, you're trying to push hostility towards a particular group of people. Now, when it comes to this concept of hate speech, there is this really ongoing debate between where to strike the balance between hate speech and free speech. In law of thought, they'll tell you, oh, you have a right to throw a punch, but your right to throw a punch stops where my nose starts. Meaning that if you are, meaning that you can do whatever you want as far as you don't hurt me. So that's one of this, there's a very big tension between hate speech and free speech, because people are always like, okay, what determines what is hate speech and what is free speech? And I'm bringing Kanye West up again because when his Twitter account was brought down, a lot of his supporters were like, this is you are imposing on his right to speak. You are imposing on his right to express himself. And Piers Morgan made a tweet and said, oh, let me go back. Piers Morgan said, Kanye West being locked out of his social media account isn't an attack on free speech. It is a justified oppression of vile and indefensible hate speech. So there's a difference between hate speech and free speech. For example, free speech promotes the sharing of opinion through it promotes the sharing of opinion. Free speech allows a way of exchange to teach, to learn, and to challenge each other's perspective. Free speech allows debate. Free speech allows conversation. Free speech allows education. Free speech allows criticism, as I said earlier, and free speech allows the sharing of experiences. Hate speech, on the other hand, targets a particular group of people with malicious intent, and it insults their identity, their individual identity. More often than not, hate speech usually include things like racism, xenophobia, Islamophobia, anti-Semitism, transphobia, and it's just like I have a right to say whatever I want to say. I have a right to agree or to disagree with you, but I don't have a right to put your life at risk through what I say. And so, what are the impact of online Semitism and hate speech on the targeted group? First of all, there's a threat to safety. A German tourist went to a particular state. I don't want to mention, the name of the country, but it was a particular state, and then he was attacked, and he had to start screaming, "I'm not Jewish, I'm not Jewish, I'm not Jewish, I'm not Jewish," because they wanted to, hurt him or attack him because they thought he was Jewish, and he had to start screaming, "I'm not Jewish, I'm not Jewish, I'm not Jewish." In that instance, if he was Jewish, he probably would have died. So there is a very big threat to safety and security to the targeted group. I remember when I read that tweet of the guy saying, "I hate the Igbos, let us flush them out of Yoruba land." The first thought that came to my mind was, damn, my whole family is in the Yoruba land. And I was, for the first like 2 seconds, I read that tweet. I had this genuine fear for my family because we're all based in a Yoruba land. And I read that he had been arrested by the police, and I was like, oh, okay, thank God, we're like safe. So there's a threat to safety and discrimination of threat to safety and security of the targeted group. And then there's also polarization, discrimination, and marginalization, where it's okay to discriminate against a certain group of people, and it becomes popular to only listen to what you have to say. And a certain group of people are marginalized for things they have no control over. Nobody has a control over his race. Nobody has a control over his gender. Some people, yes, they have a control over what religion they belong to, but it's not enough reason for them to marginalize in a society where they should be a part of. And then there's also the psychological harm that comes with it. Imagine living in a society where you are afraid of, of going to school, living in a society where you're afraid to speak, living in a society where you're afraid to identify because of very untrue things that has been shared about you on social media. Then there's the social and economic cost. People would not want to employ them, or they lose their right to, economic determination. They lose their right to make a living because of online hate speech that has been shared against the targeted group. And then there's also the normalization of intolerance. I mean, personally, I feel like Nigeria lately has been so intolerant. There's been a lot of tribalism. And I know it starts with, just people ranting over each other on Twitter and on Instagram and on all these social media platforms. But after a while, it's going to leave the keyboard, and then we are going to see it everywhere. And we're going to say, oh, you're an Igbo person, I don't want to do this with you. You're a Yoruba person, or oh, every Hausa person I've met is, Boko Haram, or you are a religious fanatic, and then it becomes worse. And then the society becomes so intolerant. We find ourselves doing things, repeating the same things from history we never thought we would do. And then it undermines democracy, because democracy is all about freedom. Democracy is all about freedom of speech, freedom of expression, freedom of association, freedom to choose your religion, freedom to live a decent life as a human being. And hate speech, hate speech and online anti-Semitism undermines it, because your right as a person is being, trampled upon by other members of the society. So the point of this webinar is to enable us to know how, we can be responsible users of social media. It's not enough to just post, but it's also very important for us to think like, how does what I post affect the next person? How does what I post, make this person's day worse or make it better? And how can we curb the spread of hate speech on social media platform? A very good example is what we are doing now, education and awareness, to make people know that it's not a joke. It's not just like, you may think like, oh, I'm safe because I'm a Christian in a Christian country, or I'm Muslim in a Muslim country. Or you may think, oh, this doesn't affect me because, I'm not Jewish, so anti-Semitism doesn't get to me. But as I said earlier, anti-Semitism is just like a word used to represent what we see in every society. There is a hate against a particular set of people, the men looking down on women, women looking down on, other people. The Yoruba secretly hating the Igbos hating the Yoruba, and things like that. The Black hating the white. So it's something that is very, prevalent in our society. So education and awareness. So how can we, bring education and awareness to the forefront? We can develop educational campaigns just like this one to debunk stereotypes and misinformation. I mean, the earth is not flat. I can tell you that for free. And you know, the moon landing was not fake, and the Jews probably don't control all the banks. You know, I don't know what other stereotypes it is that you've heard, or whatever hate speech you've heard, or whatever misinformation you've heard. But you know, through education and awareness, I can tell you that COVID is not a rich man's disease. COVID will happen to anyone who has been exposed to COVID. And then it's very important to incorporate digital literacy and critical thinking into the curriculum. No one is too young to know how to use social media responsibly. So digital literacy is very important. So don't just give your child a phone. Let your child know that he's not supposed to attend to friend requests from strangers. Let your daughter, let your son know that, you know, the 50-year-old man on Facebook telling you know, I love you is a lie, that is a pedophile. So you have to start educating people, both young and old, from a very early age. And another thing, through education and awareness, we can strengthen legislation and regulation. We can strengthen regulation and, you know, legislation that is aimed to, you know, promote responsible use of social media. There's always this debate in every class, you know, should social media platforms through like Facebook, Instagram, and, you know, just so Twitter, be responsible for what their users post. And it's always a debate because some people are always like, well, they're just a platform, they're not responsible for what other people think. And then others are like, well, they can develop responsible algorithms to flag down and to bring down as fast as possible hate speech on social media. So it's a very big debate. And I think that if we strengthen legislation to make social media platforms more responsible, it's going to help bring down the spread of hate speech. And there's also the responsible use of social media. I mean, it's not everything that gets forwarded to you that you should, you know, turn to a broadcast message. You know, I've received all form of messages from a particular generation, you know, the earth is going to be closer to the sun tonight, switch off your phones. You know, we hear every form of thing, and it's very important that, you know, we promote fact checking. It's not everything that they tell you that you believe. You know, not every Muslim person you see is a jihadist. Not every Christian is going to shoot down, you know, a member of the LGBTQ community. It's just important to check. Not everybody from the north is a member of the Boko Haram society. Not every Jew controls the bank. I can tell you that for free, that not every Jew controls the bank. It's very important. Truly, Jews are powerful. They are very influential Jews, but it's just in the same way they are very influential white people. They are very influential Black people. They are very influential Nigerians. They are very influential Ghanaians. People of influence come from everywhere. And then it's also, so let's, you know, check our facts. Don't just spread it, you know, don't just spread it forward and share. And it's also important to encourage reporting and flagging of anti-Semitic content and hateful content. There's this particular blog in Nigeria. I don't want to mention the name, but every week they are always, you know, having a new social media handle because their content can be so toxic at times, not every time, but at times their content can be so toxic. And, you know, so if we flag down their, if we flag hateful comments, anti-Semitic comments on social media, that will actually help, you know, to curb the spread of social media. And again, it's very important to, you know, support counter narrative and positive content. For example, if they are saying, oh, all the Hausa people are bad, all the Hausa people plan to bomb Nigeria and sell Nigeria to Boko Haram, it's very important to say, no, I've met with one Hausa guy. He's an amazing guy. He's an amazing guy, you know, and he treated me well. Or if they say all the Muslims are jihadists, I can always say, no, my boss in Nigeria is probably one of the best people I've ever worked with, and he was Muslim, and he had no intention of forcefully converting me to Islam or anything. It's just, you know, to support counter narratives and to promote and to amplify the voices of targeted groups. I feel like everywhere, anybody can be a member of a targeted group. For example, like me, before I moved out of Nigeria, I didn't know how Black I was. But if this place was like a racist society, for example, I would automatically become a member of the targeted group. Or if a Muslim should move to a Christian society, or if a Christian should move to Muslim society, he automatically becomes a member of the targeted group. So it's important for us to amplify voices of targeted group and to become their allies. So conclusively, and thank you all for coming, I'm pushing for you know, the use of I'm pushing for the use of responsible social media, for us to use social media responsibly. We should fact check, we should verify everything it is that we post. We should, because now the suicide rates from online, from hate and cyberbullying is increasing. So I hope that this short webinar has encouraged us, you know, to be very careful of what we post, to be responsible social media users, to flag down content that would, you know, increase marginalization, discrimination, and polarization. So if you have any question, you know, or any comments, whatever, we have 6 minutes left on this Zoom call, which is, you know, amazing. So if you have any question, comment, or anything, you can either drop it on the chat box, or you can just unmute yourself and you can ask, and I'll be more than willing to answer. Okay, but before we do that, so thank you very much. My name is Olivia Mbonu, and this is my email address if you have any question. And if you want to learn more about the Irwin Cotler Fellowship, you can always check us out on our website at cotler@tauex.ac.il. You can learn about the work we do and everything, and how we try to promote democracy, justice, and human rights in the society. So thank you very much. If you have any questions, I would just like maybe a minute or two, if anyone has anything to say. You can just like raise up your hand if you do. Okay, just waiting for like a few more seconds. Thank you very much for your comments on the chat box. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Okay, so in the absence of questions, thank you so much for stopping by. I really appreciate your time, and I really appreciate your input. Thank you for making time to be part of us. And please check out the Irwin Cotler Fellowship. You can learn more about our founder, Sir Irwin Cotler. Is an amazing person. He was the Minister of Justice in Canada for a long time, and he's all about pushing, you know, it's all about pushing democracy and human rights. It's been on a lot of human rights trials in the United Nations. So thank you very much for coming. I really appreciate you. Have a great weekend. Bye, everyone.